walk down any given street in Sacramento and see the world, a world that is Sacramento and a Sacramento that is America. We are a city that truly reflects the diversity of the country. In addition to indigenous American Indian residents, we are a city of immigrants and a city of the descendants of immigrants. Sacramento schools and colleges are preparing future professionals that reflect this diversity. I've taught at several of these institutions and observed the growing minority population of the city. I've taught early childhood, family studies, sociology, and anthropology classes, and regardless of the topic, the information is often most powerfully felt when you are also finding ways to connect to the hearts and minds of the students. One of the ways I do this is by finding ways to connect events and issues of the past to contemporary issues of interest to the students today. One example of this was soon after the 9/11 attacks. I was discussing with my class the story of the 442 Regimental Combat Team and the 100th Battalion of World War II. These combat teams were comprised of Nisei, second-generation Japanese Americans. These soldiers were American citizens. They were born in America and knew no other home but the United States. Yet they came from internment camps where they had been forced to live behind barbed wire in the shadow of post-Pearl Harbor hysteria. After being hauled away into these internment camps, many Sacramentans were among those who volunteered to serve. Then I directed a similar scenario to my students. I said, "We are at war now. What if the insurgents in Iraq or Al-Qaeda forces worldwide joined forces with Mexico or Laos or Russia? What if they rounded up you and your family? Would you then be interested in serving your country after it violated your family's constitutional rights?" The first time I led that discussion was one of the most memorable events of my years in teaching. In a class consisting of about 2/3 Asian and Latino immigrant students, the future of the Asian American and Latino communities, not one of them said they would sign up to serve their country. A few said that they felt for their family's country of origin more than the United States. Many said that they would be like the handful of Japanese Americans who resisted the draft. Those resistors were saying, "Why should I fight and die for a country that had violated my family's civil rights and locked us up?" How about stand up and be counted? I asked this group of first-time freshmen. How many of them had voted or were planning to vote? Just a few. So let's be clear. We're not talking about support or not for this war or war in general or the military. The issue is responding to the call for service from your community. This has been gnawing at me for the last several years. This group, which seemed like an average group of young professional immigrants, seemed ready to buy into all the rights of citizenship, but precious few of the responsibilities. Many Japanese Americans lost their lives in the 442 Regimental Combat Team and the 100th Battalion, but they left a legacy for future Japanese Americans. They helped to dispel any questions of loyalty to their home. Japanese Americans are a thoroughly integrated and acknowledged part of American society. Knowing how far the service of the Japanese Americans in World War II helped to break down barriers for Asian Americans, knowing about the long tradition of military service in the Latino community, and even knowing that a significant number of those fighting and dying overseas right now are immigrants who aren't even citizens yet. None of the students were willing to stand up and serve. The scenario I proposed to my students isn't as far-fetched as it may sound. There were calls from some to go after loyal citizens who happen to be Arab, Sikh, or Muslim. There was a lot of radical Muslim activity in Asia. North Korea has been identified as a member of the axis of evil. There's even a book out called In Defense of Internment that features a picture of a Japanese heritage person on one side of the cover and a picture of a Muslim heritage person on the other side. And there are already 2, with 3 more planned, family immigration detention centers. The threat is real, and ethnic minority families, especially immigrant families, need to think about these issues. If the Asian American and Latino communities are really going to come into their own at last in the United States, we have to get those in college more interested in participating in their civic responsibilities. We not only have to teach them the history of our Sacramento elders who face the same dilemma the youth of today might face, but we also have to instill in them the values of those that won their freedom by sacrificing their own.